So tell us, so the city has put out a narrative that basically says they only responded because people wouldn't leave and somebody started throwing bottles, and that seems to be different than a narrative that I'm hearing from people who were actually there. So what's the reality? What happened?
Well, I've been going down to the police department for 2 days and kind of working with the protesters myself and getting them to leave peacefully. I told them to write a list of 10 things that they want to see change in their communities and bring it back and present it to them. What's happening here, they're leaving downtown, leaving the police department, and they're heading towards downtown. They're being blocked off, cornered in.
By who?
Orlando Police Department.
Really?
Sheriff Department, and some said it was Highway Patrol. Okay, state troopers, they're down here and they're blocking them in. They're being forced to be in the area where when they're trying to leave before curfew, and they're not being able to get to their vehicles. Tear gassed and maced.
Wow. So on Tuesday night, what happened down here at City Hall Plaza?
On Tuesday night, it seemed to be a group of people down here. Miles can tell you more about that. I wasn't actually down here. I was down on the other end at the police department.
Yeah, I can tell you, Tuesday night downtown here, I would say around Magnolia, there was a group of people who, to understand why this takes place, people meet downtown, either at Lake Eola or City Hall. They park their vehicles here. Then they proceed to march around downtown, off into OPD, which is about a mile away, almost 2 miles away by walk.
Is this a black crowd or a white crowd?
And it's a very mixed, diverse crowd, mostly white, Spanish, and some black people from the neighborhood. But what you see mostly is people coming from all over and parking downtown, walking to OPD, and then when they're coming back from OPD, it's around 9 p.m. trying to get to the vehicles before the curfew. That's when you're seeing more of the kettling happening, when they're getting back towards the place where their vehicles are parked. You're seeing bicycle officers from OPD come around areas where they're gathered, blocking off areas, and although you can legally walk past them, they're obstructing the sidewalk, making it no way to get past them without touching them, which we all know is illegal. So
and then they can arrest you for assault.
Yes. So they're making it in a way that intimidation is fear, and then you're seeing people literally get to their vehicles late because of this, but around 10 p.m. there are people being aggressively touched and forcefully pushed by the police because they're past curfew and getting detained. And I believe that this is happening even as a deterrence to other races, so that you don't want to come speak on the black issue, because you're seeing black, white, Spanish it happen to. But what I'm seeing that really offended me was young black kids from the Paramore neighborhood also being arrested for throwing stuff when there was other people throwing things. And you cannot see who threw stuff. I want to say allegedly throwing things. You have a crowd of 1,000 people, but you're seeing a lot of young black people be the ones who are targeted for arrest.
So Luana, you've been working Paramore for a long time. I mean, when we hear about people Paramore being frustrated, I mean, why is there so much frustration?
The frustration is a long-term racism, discrimination, you name it, it's happened, gentrification. But when David, I just want to say this, when we found out about the curfew, it was Sunday, May 31st. We did a video. People could have said it was harsh, but I talked about modern day lynching, and I felt like this was going to be lynching. And so I took it upon myself Sunday to go to OPD past curfew just to make sure I didn't see them patrolling in the Paramore community and harassing the community. Through my eyes, I saw that happen. Through my eyes, I saw people being gassed. I saw people being slammed to the ground. One media young man was slammed to the ground. I saw that happening and videotaped it. And my question to the Aramis, the state attorney, to Chief Berlone, to everybody, the executive order is saying what? Why are you making arrests that's a fine and you using so much excessive force? But when I returned home to Metro West, people were out walking their dogs past 12 o'clock. You didn't go in there and do anything like that. If it's a curfew, I said it needs to be applied throughout the city of Orlando. And
so Mayor Deming said the curfew wasn't really because of the protests. He said the curfew was because of concerns about coronavirus getting spread around. Do you believe that or not believe that?
If it was about that, you could have issued a curfew and had a press conference and informed the community at a decent time frame. And the way you enforced it, the day you enacted it at 12 noon, so you had people 10 hours. I had people walking home from work saying they were being harassed, getting home from work. So clearly you had officers who had not been instructed, because one of them told me the executive order meant everybody off the street at 10 o'clock. Even media. I said, well, let me pull mine up on the phone and read it to you, because I didn't read that. So clearly you're not communicating, so you're doubling back, Mayor Demings. And what I'm saying is, this is not a time to play with people's lives. Young people are coming out because they can finally see what you and I and others have lived through for so many years, and they're experiencing it firsthand, and all you can say is to protect. Who is protecting? You are the escalators, not the de-escalators.
So Miles and Mayor, what do you gentlemen want to see happen as a result of the way the police behave? What are the next steps? What should happen in a perfect world?
In a perfect world, we would see the chief and the sheriff take accountability. We would see people step down, whether it be both of them, chief, because OPD was the ones escalating it. If you can admit that your leadership was faulty, that you lied on press conference saying that there was not tear gas dispersed when it was clearly tear gas dispersed. And if there wasn't all these incidents taking place, as a great leader, you would step down and say, I messed up, I'm wrong, and we need to get somebody out. And as a great leader, Buddy Dyer, if you want to keep your hands clean, you would step in there and remove him since you appointed him. I would also like to see the sheriff take a responsibility and accountability. And if he does not take accountability, we will take accountability when it comes time to vote.
I would like to see the removal of this curfew. The whole city shouldn't be responsible for a group of individuals that's out here vandalizing and tearing up things, most of them that they have already caught. We've recognized the group Antifa already in the city already. We have photographs and everything of this group. They were here yesterday. Someone took a picture of them. They are here. They have infiltrated the protesters. And this is what is happening.
You guys kind of got the protest got the blame for some vandalism that happened at Millennium Mall. But basically the protest that was over here at the 408 in the trail,
it was over.
Ain't no way you can get from one to this.
It was over. They got blamed for Millennium Mall. They got blamed for West Oaks Mall. And they got blamed for the shops around Millennium Mall, which our protest went peacefully. Our protest actually ended at City Hall. It was the young ones that continued down Anderson Street, which were not involved with Nam Mall break-in, destruction, or nothing.
So the thing you said before, Miles, you said because people are obviously very worked up about what happened to George Floyd, but I think he said to me a little bit earlier off camera that this stuff happening right here that we need to be.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we know that we're not just protesting because we're following the line with what's happened with George Floyd. That is the boiling point that brought this to the media's attention. But this has been an ongoing battle. People like Lawana Gelzer have been fighting for decades about issues with OPD and excessive force. We have been fighting for families that have lost their loved ones in custody, have been pursued by the police, have been hurt by the police, have been terrified and followed, and it's not something that is just happening in Minneapolis. So what we want to see is direct action. You know, we want to say, we see pictures of police kneeling with the audience and trying to do stuff for photo ops. Why have you not called anybody to have a meeting or to see what can we enact? What kind of policy can I put in right now, today, that would change my police force from hurting and terrorizing some of these citizens? And if you admit there are good cops and bad cops, you need to protect your good cops by making policies that get rid of the bad cops.
Can I say something? Yeah. And David, I want to say what my concern is. You're right. We've been following this for quite some time. But the main thing is we presented recommendations for years, a community action plan for years, and one of the things was that you look at your use of force metrics and there be a universal use of force metric throughout the country, because I will say it and I don't care what anybody say, I looked it up before I just left the home, mappingpoliceviolence.com calm, Orlando is still #1 in the country for excessive force cases, even when you bury some of them in file 13.
So yeah, but what about so we have all these complaints. What happened the other night? So what the chief will say, what the mayor will say, well, you need to take that up with Civilian Review Board. How effective is that?
Well, I've been going for 6 years, and you've been joining me and some other people. Waste of time. Let's start with the appointment. Very nice individuals. Mayor Dyer selects who's on that board. Period. And only the cases that come before them has been already reviewed by Attorney Affairs. Attorney Affairs is who? The Orlando Police Department. I've said it over and over again. You cannot police yourselves. We need an independent review board with teeth. We need to be able to citizens to select who we want on that board.
Well, the citizens, I guess, having the power to say get rid of cops.
Well, yeah, because the Bill of Rights and all the rules and regulations that they have, they're so protected, and we're not. And clearly, they're using that to their advantage to harm our community. Not de-escalate the problem, but to escalate the problem, and they're using force. Chemical agent in Orlando when people against children, but period, it doesn't matter.
16,
if the OPD officer they can use it based on their use of force metrics. If I was walking down the street and clearly they didn't like the color of my skin or what I had on, the rules said they can use a chemical agent at first contact. It's justified by their rules.
Well, I guess the age doesn't mean anything. We saw Orlando police officer arrest a 6-year-old girl and not bat an eye.
So this is not no photo op. This is not no PR. People wake up. They are civil liberties. We are human beings. I just got off the phone with a pastor that I respect so much, and I am literally pleading with some of the people who've come before me, some of the people in my age group. This is a serious matter. We cannot sit back and let them brutalize our young people, demonize the community and say it's us when it's them. Apologize. But if I commit a crime and I'm with somebody and they get charged, so that blue line of silence is the problem. Point out who the bad officers are. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Whether you like Miles, whether you like Amir, whether you like Lawana, we've been on the front line. And we've been on the front line saying we have a plan to make sure we're all protected. Because your job is to protect and serve, not to instill fear and intimidation.
Anybody else need to say anything?
First of all, the First Amendment guarantees people the right to peacefully assemble and petition the government. What I'm seeing here is OPD is not like any other police force. You got 14-year, 12-year-old kids standing in front of you, and you're not even willing to talk. You're not even willing to take a knee. It's not that we want you to take a knee, but these are kids talking to you, crying, running around. They're hurt. There's no mental health counselors out here. There's nobody to help them. Okay, this is the problem. They've seen too much.
They've awakened.
They've awakened, and they're hurt
and they're
behind what they're seeing.
They're traumatized.
Okay, while everybody's criticizing on Facebook and this and that about the looting and this and that, the looting is happening from other organizations that are planted inside these protesters. What's happening here, these kids are standing up for this city. And you see mostly none of the grown folks out here doing the thing. And it's sad because I sat there and watched a little young girl cry yesterday because one officer wouldn't even speak to her. So something has to be done.
Can I just say this? Somebody whose family been protesting for a long time. The history of protesting is always to have people to infiltrate. What was different is you always heard that we tore up our community, the urban community, the inner city. What is transpiring is people who have businesses in affluent communities, they are seeing the vandalism. They're making the call because they're afraid. So that lets you know the history of protesting is to tear up your own community. That's not what happened. So they're using the protest as a diversion to go and rob and steal. Focus on that, but don't apply that. And don't demonize a community and people guilt by association because you're speaking up for your rights.